Sup guys, it's Alex here, and welcome to another edition of the Bracketology Update. This one is for March 6th. I've been doing the CBS ones with Jerry Palm for the last couple of days, but Joe Lunardi has finally updated his bracket predictions. This one is for March 6th. This is the Friday. This is basically probably going to be the last regular season one that he does now that conference tournaments are getting ready to kick off here in the next week or so. All the mid-major conferences are starting their tournaments, and then the actual Power 5 and all them, they're going to be starting it in the next week. And so I'm going to try to be doing daily uploads next week, whether it be the bracketology updates, whether it be conference tournament predictions, whether it be even possibly Q&A I may be doing. We'll kind of see what happens with that. But man, look at all the movement in this bracket. There is a ton to go through. Up here in the Midwest Regional, up in the top left, we have Kansas remaining the 1 seed. They'll probably be the number 1 overall seed, barring any crazy stuff happening in the Big 12 tournament. And we have Houston down to an 8, USC up to a 9. BYU is now up to a 5. That's actually pretty impressive for them. They're one of the top offensive teams in the nation. East Tennessee State has for some reason they've fallen down to a 12. Then Wisconsin is up to a 4, the playing game, as you can see. Arizona State and Cincinnati. Then New Mexico State is down to a 14. Virginia is up to a 7. Stanford is up to a 10. Then if we go down here to the East Regional, we have San Diego State remaining the 1 seed. Then Eastern Washington is new to the field as a 16. Texas Tech is now down to a 9. Butler is up to a 5. Maryland has been losing these past couple of games. I think they lost at home to Michigan State, and then they lost on the road to Rutgers in their past 2 games. They are now down to a 4 after threatening to make a run at the 1 seed. They were a 2 seed, but now they are down to a 4. Then Akron is new to the field as the MAC representative as a 13 seed. Then we have Auburn down to a 6. UCLA is now up to an 11. They're out of the last 4 in. I think they're one of the last 4 byes now or something like that. And then we have Illinois now up to a 7. Texas is new to the field as a 10. They have been, just like UCLA, on an absolute tear recently. They just got that buzzer beater against Oklahoma and then a couple of road wins against Texas Tech. They are absolutely killing it. They are now up to a 10, which is crazy to think with the start of the season that they had. Then if we go up here to the South Regional up in the top right, we have Baylor remaining the 1 seed. Providence is now up to an 8. LSU is down to a 9. Their defense has just fallen off recently. Then we have Ohio State up to a 5. They just got a huge win against Michigan. Then we got Vermont up to a 12. Tulsa is new to the field as the American Athletic Conference representative, but I highly doubt they'd actually win that tournament and get the automatic bid. Then we have Iowa down to a 6, Northern Iowa down to an 11, Arizona down to a 7, Rutgers is now up to a 10 after getting that home win against Maryland, as I mentioned earlier. Jerry Palm, for some reason, had them out of the field. I think they're safe in as a 9 or a 10. Then down here in the West Regional, we have Gonzaga remaining the 1. West Virginia is now down to an 8 after being a 2 seed at one point. They are in free fall mode at this point. Then we have Penn State down to a 5. Colorado down to a 6. The playing game is Xavier and Indiana. Michigan State is now up to a 3. Louisville is up to a 2, taking that 2 line. And then we have UC Irvine falling down to a 15. But before I get into the picks, I just want to let you guys know, if you don't know already and haven't been watching my videos, if I hit 5,000 subscribers by March 17th, which is the start of the first 4 games, and it's only about 11 days away, I will be giving away 2 NCAA tournament tickets to the first round. There'll be 2 separate winners getting 1 ticket each. All you have to do to be able to enter this giveaway is subscribe to the channel, take a screenshot of you being subscribed, follow me on Instagram at AlexPrice24, then DM me a screenshot of you being subscribed, tell me what your closest tournament location is, and tell me what your favorite college basketball team is. The details for this will be in the description, so you don't have to pause the video and try to go step by step. It will be in the description, and then once I get that, I'll send you a message confirming that you've been entered into the giveaway. And then I'll be doing the giveaway on March 17th. If we hit 5,000 subscribers by then, we're only 630 away at this point. We are knocking them down. I think at the start of this week, we are at 4,300. We still have a little bit of a ways to go, but I think we can get the job done. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into the bracketology predictions. So at first, we have Kansas. Obviously, they're going to beat the winner of NC Central and Robert Morris. Then we're going to have Houston beat USC. I think Houston is the best team in the AAC this year, and I think they'll get the job done here as the 8/9. I'm going to go with an upset pick here. If you guys have been watching my bracketologies, you know I am really high on East Tennessee State this season. I think that they can get the job done here as a 12/5 upset. There's always a few of those upsets every tournament, and I think that East Tennessee State is underseeded as a 12. I think that really they could be like a 9 or a 10. I'd really like them in this spot as a 12. And then I'm going to go with another upset pick here and go with Stephen F. Austin over Wisconsin. It's kind of a knock against Wisconsin. I just can't get behind them having success in the tournament. There's just no guy that can absolutely take over for them. I just haven't really been sold on them. They've been doing pretty good in the Big Ten. I do have to give them credit for that. But Stephen F. Austin is one of the best teams in the nation as a mid-major. I think they've only lost 3 games all season. And as you guys know, I'm sure they went on the road and beat Duke. I think they can beat Wisconsin in the tournament and move on to the second round. I almost said Sweet 16, but we'll kind of see about that. Then we have Michigan beating the winner of Arizona State and Cincinnati, which I think would be Arizona State. Kentucky will beat New Mexico State. Though New Mexico State, I do have to say, I don't like them here as a 14. I think that they should be a 13 or possibly even a 12. I think they're underseeded here as a 14. They haven't lost a game since December. They've won like 19 in a row at this point. They are a team to watch out for in the tournament. Then we have Virginia beating Stanford, Seton Hall beating North Dakota State. If I can pick Seton Hall, there we go. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we have Kansas over Houston. I'm going to go with East Tennessee State moving on here past Stephen F. Austin and into the Sweet 16. We have a 12 seed in the Sweet 16. I'm going to go with Kentucky here beating Michigan, and then Seton Hall. I think they'll be able to get the job done against Virginia, though that would be a really... I have no idea whether that would be a really low-scoring game on the Virginia side or a really high-scoring game on the Seton Hall side. It'd be pretty interesting to see that game go down. They're going to go with Kansas here beating East Tennessee State as much as I'd love to see East Tennessee State pulling off the victory. I do think Kansas is a much better team. I'm going to go with Kentucky here beating Seton Hall. Seton Hall did just lose at home to Villanova, though Kentucky also did lose at home to Tennessee. If Kentucky plays the way they did in that first half against Tennessee, I think that they can be a national champion. I really do. But if they play the way they played in the second half, they're going to get upset first round. It's just a matter of staying focused for them. I think that they can get the job done looking at their full season body of work, except for that Evansville game where we had 2 people out and stuff. I'm not going to try and make excuses for that. But Kentucky has been really good recently. They've only lost once, or I think twice, since January 15th. But then for a spot in the Final Four, I am going to go with the better team here in Kansas. They've been way more consistent throughout the season, and I know I'd get a lot of backlash if I pick Kentucky. So then if we go down here to the East Regional, we do have San Diego State moving on past Eastern Washington. Texas Tech, I think, will beat St. Mary's as a 9-8 minor upset. Butler, I think, will hold off against Yale. I think that's probably the best case scenario for a Butler team as a 5 and the best possible opponent as a 12. I'm going to go with Maryland beating Akron here as the 4 seed. I'm going to go with an upset pick here and go with the 11 seed UCLA Bruins over Auburn. UCLA, as I mentioned earlier, they are turning it on right now. They are on absolutely fire. And then Auburn has just been kind of falling off recently. They lost at home to Texas A&M after losing on the road at Kentucky. They've been losing recently. I think they're at like 6 or 7 losses now. They are not a team that is playing with momentum right now. I think UCLA gets the job done. I'm going to go with Duke over Belmont. Illinois with Ayo DeSumo over Texas, battle of the 2 orange teams. Then we got Dayton over Wright State. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we do have San Diego State moving on past Texas Tech. Maryland, I think, will be able to beat Butler here. I'm going to go with Duke over UCLA and Dayton over Illinois. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm going to go with San Diego State. I thought about picking Maryland there, but Maryland has been a little bit inconsistent recently. As I mentioned earlier, they do have the 2 recent losses. I'm going to go with San Diego State, who only has 1 loss on the entire season at home to UNLV. I think that they'll be able to move on here to the Elite Eight. I'm going to go with Dayton beating Duke. I think Obi Toppin will be able to lead Dayton past Duke, and Obi Toppin does have a nice supporting cast with Dayton that doesn't get much credit. I think they can get the job done there, and Duke has been pretty inconsistent during the month of February. It'll be interesting to see how they perform in the ACC tournament. But then for a spot in the Final Four, I'm going to go with Dayton here beating San Diego State as the 2 seed. You guys know how high I am on Dayton, and they're number 3 in the nation for a reason. I think they'll be able to set up a rematch in the Maui tournament where Kansas beat Dayton in overtime. I think that'd be a really great Final Four matchup to see. So then over here, if we go to the South Regional, we have Baylor here beating Radford as the 1/16. That one's pretty obvious. Then I'm going to go with Providence over LSU. Then Ohio State over Vermont, though I do have to give Vermont credit. They are now up to a 12. I think that's really good for that Vermont program. They are really good. So make sure you stay on the lookout for them in the tournament. They could pull off the upset here, but Ohio State has been really good recently. I don't want to pick against them in that first round. Then I'm going to go with Oregon with Peyton Pritchard here over Tulsa. Iowa with Luka Garza over Northern Iowa. And then Villanova over Hofstra. Then I'm going to go with Rutgers over Arizona. Rutgers has been pretty good. Arizona has just kind of been there recently. They have a really high net ranking, but I can't really get behind them winning multiple games in the NCAA tournament, let alone one against Rutgers. But then I'm going to go with Florida State moving on here past Little Rock. Then we have Baylor versus Providence. Baylor's obviously going to win that one. Then this sets up a great matchup here between Ohio State and Oregon in the round of 32. I feel like that's way too early to have an Ohio State versus Oregon game, but I am going to go with Peyton Pritchard and Oregon moving on here past Ohio State and getting the job done. That matchup is a complete 50-50 toss-up for me right now, but I'm just going to go with the higher seed just because they're the higher seed for a reason. I'm going to go with a 6/3 with Iowa over Villanova. I think Luka Garza is a National Player of the Year contender. It's going to come down to him and Obi Toppin for the Player of the Year. I think that they can get the job done there over Villanova in a slight upset. But I'm going to go with Florida State here, moving on past Rutgers. Then for a spot in the Elite Eight, I'm going to go with Oregon pulling off the upset here. This is pretty crazy considering the last bracketology that I did just yesterday with CBS, where I had Oregon losing, getting upset in the first round in New Mexico State, and then Baylor moving on to the Final Four. I may have had them in the championship game. I can't remember about that. But I'm going to go with Oregon here with Peyton Pritchard. I think that they can get the surprise upset here over Baylor. I think these two teams have matched up in recent bracketologies that I've done, like probably near the middle of February, something like that. I think Peyton Pritchard can lead them past Baylor and into the Elite Eight. They're going to go with Florida State here, moving on past Iowa. And then for a spot in the Final Four, I am going to go with Florida State moving on. Florida State did have a scare against Notre Dame. I think it was either like Tuesday or Wednesday night, something like that. But I think that Florida State is strong enough to make it to the Final Four, and they're a 2 seed for a reason this year. And then if we go down here to the U.S. Regional, we have Gonzaga beating the winner of Prairie View, A&M, and Siena. That one doesn't really matter. Florida moving on here past West Virginia. You guys know how much I don't like West Virginia this year. That's probably one of my proudest predictions. Like throughout the course of the season, I have been very low on West Virginia. Hadn't put them in the Sweet 16, even when they were a 2 seed, and now look at them, they're an 8 seed. So that's another reason why you need to listen to me for the actual bracketologies and then the tournament itself. So I know what I'm doing there, but I may not, of course, to the rest of the bracket. And I know that some of you guys don't agree with me with some of my picks, but it's all about the bracketology and stuff. It's about having fun. Then we got Penn State moving on here past Liberty. Liberty has not been looking too good recently in the ASUN tournament. And we got Creighton here over North Texas. Colorado, I think, will be able to hold off here against Xavier, who I think will beat Indiana in that playing game. Then Michigan State will beat Colgate. Marquette with Marcus Howard will move on here past Oklahoma. And then we got Louisville moving on past UC Irvine. Then for a spot in the Sweet 16, we do have Gonzaga moving on here against Florida. Then Creighton, I think, will be able to beat Penn State. Then we got Michigan State moving on here past Colorado. And then Louisville moving on past Marquette, which this sets up a fantastic little Sweet 16 of this region. I think these are all these 4 teams right here have a chance to move on to the Final Four. I can't really say the same thing about really any other region. I think that this region is the strongest right here. I know that's going to be pretty controversial considering up here in the top left region we did have Kansas and Kentucky and Seton Hall. But I am going to go with Creighton pulling off the upset here with a 4/1. Creighton's down to a 4/1 over Gonzaga. Creighton's one of the most efficient offensive teams in the nation. And I think besides that blip on the radar against St. John's, I think that they can get the victory here and pull off the upset. Gonzaga's only lost twice all season. I think they get their 3rd loss here. Then we have Michigan State beating Louisville. These two teams always seem to find each other in the tournament for some reason. But then for a spot in the actual Final Four itself, I'm going to go with Michigan State as the 3 seed. Moving on here past Creighton. I think Michigan State is turning it on recently. They're playing like the preseason #1 team right now. They finally found some complementary players to back up Cassius Winston and Xavier Tillman like Rocket Watts. And I think they'll be able to make the Final Four. So this sets up an interesting Final Four of only one #1 seed of Kansas. I think that they will be able to beat Dayton and kind of shut them down. Dayton will not be able to get their revenge in this game. But then I am going to go with Michigan State moving on here to the national championship game against Florida State. Michigan State, as I just mentioned, they are one of the best teams in the nation right now. They're one of the hottest teams in the nation right now. They had a preseason National Player of the Year contender. He was probably the favorite in Cassius Winston. I think that they can make the national championship game here against Kansas. But then for the national championship itself, I do think Kansas will end up winning it. I think that they're the best team in the college basketball for a reason, and that's why, like, even if they lose at first round in the Big 12 tournament, I still think that they'll be the #1 overall seed, and I think that they're the best team in college basketball, and I think they're the favorite to win the championship. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe and like if you did enjoy. Let me know your own comments and predictions and stuff like that and own thoughts in the comments section below. Make sure you subscribe and enter that NCAA tournament ticket giveaway, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.